Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for coming to Streaming Media West 2025. What a year it's been. Let's get started. So we're going to start out, and our session is really about taking a hard look at where things are, where have they been, and whether or not we're going to see the kind of success that we saw or the kind of volume that we saw in the past few years. So, as many of you know, Hollywood literally was on fire this year, at the beginning of the year, and this is no joke, but also the industry in itself has been disrupted. And as the industry has been disrupted, one of the things that we've been thinking and looking at is, what's happening to Hollywood? Is Hollywood changing for the better, or is Hollywood actually being sort of deteriorated from the inside? Content has been the king for so many years, and now we're seeing a proliferation of content at scale that we haven't seen pretty much, I think James has said, since the 70s, where you see this rise that's happening. Now, as we see that, we also see that there is a lot of content that's being created, and we call it content and because some of it is not film. Some of it is not true storytelling. Some of it is, microdramas and things of that nature that lean more towards soap operas and things of that ilk. And they are doing fabulous when it comes to, their ability to keep people engaged and to keep them watching and now to monetize it. So we're going to talk about that as well. So maybe not the end of days, but the question is old Hollywood running away from where they should be running to? Or is old Hollywood learning from this new wave of storytellers who are actually understanding how to run with the technology and actually use that technology to create something new, something exciting, and where does this actually go? So we have on set right now with us 3 individuals who are at the front end of where all of this is going. And these individuals spend a lot of their time either making movies, predicting where things are going to go as far as those who are making movies, providing solutions and data around what's going on with that. So with that, I'm going to ask that everybody introduce themselves, and we'll get started.
Hello. James Blevins, founder of Mesh. It's a production consultancy. I have been very fortunate to be constantly working through the pandemic. 15 years in visual effects. Started on set, 15 years in visual effects, 6 years standing up the Disney Digital Studio, standing up post at Netflix for 6 years, and then becoming the post-production supervisor for The Mandalorian. That allowed me to put up my own shingle. The phone has been ringing, and I've been very, very lucky.
This is Atul Fadnis. I'm the founder CEO of Vitrina AI. We use a lot of AI to look at the entertainment supply chain globally. Our key focus is to figure out which companies are inside the supply chain, what are the key activities that they're doing. And one of the key aspects that we do is we, on a daily basis, our system updates on every new project that's getting birthed in the world, in the universe, across 100 different countries. So which new projects are coming up in development, which new projects are coming up in production, which projects are going into post and then releases. And what that does is it gives us a pretty good handle about the overall throughput for different industries and different countries, in terms of their movie production, their television production, and also the one key aspect for us that really is a key aspect for us to track is not only the projects that are getting birthed and progressing through the overall sort of throughput, but also which are the companies that are essentially helping that project to the finish line. So who financed the project, who commissioned the project, who's producing, who's post-producing, and all the services companies that are typically getting involved. So it gives us a pretty good handle about what's the overall trend and activity inside the supply chain. And then the key aspect for us is to figure out, exactly to Renat's point, predictions from there, projections from there. How's the year going to end? Which countries are doing really well? Which countries are not doing really well from a production perspective? That's Vitrina.
Chuck Parker, I'm the CEO at SohoNet. We connect storytellers, and what that means is that we have services that start from pre-production on set, where we do phones, internet, Wi-Fi, et cetera, at about 300 stages around the world. We have another 700 or so that are connected into our private network, so the industry's largest way to push data around at scale. And then we have a whole suite of real-time and asynchronous collaboration products. And relative to data, because we have so many soundstage customers, we had to get religion on data when the pre the strike, so October of 22, really, we saw a big drop in data. We've gotten real religion on it. We share that data with our key customers, and so we have a lot of viewpoints on where we're at relative to peak TV and where we're at today in terms of our total productions and value and spend in what we would traditionally call TV and film, which is about 80% of our trick. Whereas we wouldn't have anywhere near as much information, data, et cetera, outside what most of this room would call the traditional realm of TV and film. So sort of like North America, Western Europe, a little bit of Australia, New Zealand. We don't touch South America, India, China, et cetera. So it'll be an interesting panel, I think.
Thank you, guys. And I am Renard Jenkins, recovering studio executive, and also the president and CEO of I2A2 Technology Studios and Labs. We focus on making technology transparent and focusing really on artists and building tools to help them sort of integrate all this new emerging technology into their pipelines. So we're going to dive right in. Our crew of people are going to be doing a little bit of soothsaying and a little bit of crystal balling for us today. So we want to start with our first question for the group. Do you see a return to full-scale production volumes in the next 12 to 24 months, sort of like the peak era that we saw around 2018, 2019?
In terms of financing or in terms of volume?
I'm going to say first volume, and then we can talk about financing.
Then yes, the volume is going to increase, and it's going to be produced by people whose costs are very low. And it's going, I think the bottom end of things that are sort of, that will support a career, about where I'm happy, is the $5 million to $10 million level. And I'm seeing, I'm working on 4 of those at the moment. I'd like to cap that. That's enough work for me. But I think that the machine needs to be fed, right? And it's going to continue to be fed. But the question is can the infrastructure that has been supporting the creation of content, we'll say, whether or not it can operate at those levels. Because I'll tell you, the one thing that I'm having a really good time is making these stories and not getting one studio note. It's the rise of the independent storytelling, including miniseries, and independent television, independent film, and now that YouTube has given every single one of you a CDN in your own storefront, right? We'll see exactly what gets produced.
So one aspect that we are sort of seeing globally is that, and I'll give both the global and the US picture. Mm-hmm. So both global releases and global productions in 2025 are 17% down, okay, as per everything that we track. And these are high value, medium value, low value, all of these projects rolled together. And then we're sort of seeing that same global 17% drop also mirror in the US. So that kind of tells us where the industry will be this year. But next year, again, we are sort of seeing a revival in certain countries and markets. And we can talk a little bit about that in a separate segment, Renard, if that is of interest. But we're sort of seeing also what type of markets are back and what are the conditions for which that had to exist for those markets to be bouncing back. So maybe we can talk about that.
Yeah.
I'm going to talk about specifically US, Canada, UK, Ireland, and I realize I'm leaving out a lot of countries. But in terms of value, that makes about 90% of the spend, right? We're down about, this is our peak relative to 2022. This is as high as we're going to get this year, right? We're about 18% down on volume versus what we would call peak TV back in October 22 in terms of production green lights and principal photography starting. And in terms of value, in terms of budget, we're down about 30%. Now, remember that we measure things in T-shirt sizes. So in James's world, where he's talking about $5 and $10 million movies, we call that small, so 1 to 10. What we're seeing and what we believe is going to happen in the next few years is the volume of XL and L, those really big budgets, are likely to be flat, right, to declining. Whereas, as James was saying, we predict the volume of smaller things below 35 million is likely to expand in a pretty significant way. And that's a confluence of everything we're talking about here, right? Like it's AI makes shit cheaper. Business models are changing rather rapidly. People are forced to make interesting decisions. Linear TV is in a secular decline. But I do believe while we're in this moment for what we call TV and film right now, there'll be more video than ever produced in history. The obvious question for everyone in the room is, can we make money in the way it's going to come out? And that's the harder part to figure out.
I'm more concerned with delivering a negative. Good luck to you all.
Well, Chuck, we want to stay with you for a minute there because you brought up AI, and we know that is in the minds of some executives, a mechanism to drive costs down and to drive production costs down. What does that actually mean, to folks on the ground? And I'll pull up your slide here that talks about your 6 market forces and so forth.
Sure. I think without having the incendiary debate about humans and labor and versus AI, et cetera, the way I would think about this is an opportunity for things to get better in places that we didn't quite predict, right? So I'll give you an easy example, right? Like, it is really hard for anyone in the room to think through what automation could occur on set that you don't need a gaffer. Like, that's just hard to get your brain wrapped around. The closest thing we can get to it is virtual production, but I'm sure will James tell you there's still a lot of people on set during virtual production, a lot of humans, right? But you guys have all seen what's happened with all the crazy video things that are out there, right? Including Sora launching last Wednesday or Thursday, right? The odds of us figuring out how to do an establishing shot that is high enough quality that you won't go shoot an establishing shot anymore and you won't get it from Getty, you'll generate it, are pretty high. Establishing shots are like 10 to 15% of the scene count. That might reduce your shoot days from 180 on average to like 170. That's real huge fucking money savings, right? It will very unlikely affect front of camera anytime soon, but back below line, especially on tools and everything else, you can imagine that we're going to see integration between workflows happen at a programmatic level, whether it's an API or an MCP, right? So it's less about can AI take your lunch than it is the automation that's occurring in every step of the chain is likely going to reduce costs and time is the most important thing if we're going to save money in the way we make stuff.
Yeah. So a tool in your space.
Yeah.
You got something for that before?
So just to
We get
tack
to a
on to
tool?
that, so
Okay.
when we use our imagination about augmented workflows in production, you need to say things like production designer as prompter, right? Then also you have to think of the role of the assistant editor is completely augmented by additional requests from the editor to create coverage, right? So the editor now, doesn't turn to the director and say like, oh God, look, it doesn't work. We got to go do some pickups or reshoots. That goes away. And then also your actors and your key actors, you build a lore around them, you build a lore around your sets, and they definitely will be there for season 1 or the first thing, but they may be there for less of season 2. You'll be using their lore for all sorts of things. Of course, all of this is up front and been agreed upon by the actor. That's what these augmented workflows look like in production.
That's interesting that you say that, because right now, as we all saw, Tilly Norwood the idea is being explored.
Well, Tilly went away this week. She did. Tilly,
but has Tilly really gone away, or has Tilly just taken a break and
it has been only a week.
Resurface?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Right? Maybe.
Yeah. So
You know who Tilly is? Raise your hands if you know who Tilly is. Okay, good. All right. See, they know who Tilly is.
They know.
See?
For those of you who did not raise your hand, Tilly Norwood is an AI actress who was actually being sought after by some of the major agencies, and the conversation was going as to whether or not an AI-generated actress or actor could be represented. And as James said, Tilly went away this week, but we don't know if Tilly's gone away forever.
She has an empty Instagram account.
That conversation is going to be ongoing. That conversation and this type of conversation was the reason that we saw the immediate negative response to AI and the beginning of the strikes. Protecting the human in the loop is still the key to all of this stuff actually working.
We've talked about this.
Yes, we
right?
have.
I mean, Kermit the Frog as a puppet. You know, you had a hand expressing an emotion, which we all latched onto. And, suddenly we're like falling in love with an entire world of puppets. So it doesn't take much. You just need to have some emotion. And I do think that the use of AI mesh over performance is a form of puppetry. And so I think for that example, I don't think we have any problem consuming that stuff. It's when we push the non-human forward and say, ain't it great? We're all like, no, it's not so great.
Yeah, but I guess I would say that different actors in the chain or different people in the chain want different things from AI, right?
Yep.
The director wants, how can that person get their idea into a format where somebody with real money can say, I love your idea, let's make it. This producer wants to create something as cheap as possible that's good enough to justify whatever channel of distribution they have, the movie ticket or the TV show, right? And the studio clearly wants to generate an amount of IP for the least amount of cost, right? Whether you're going to measure that in per minute cost or something else so that they can monetize something, right? And I guess the actor wants to maintain his or her job, right? But everyone wants something different here, and the question is who's going to win.
Do you know how that manifests, though? Is that everyone starts reaching into other disciplines. They protect their own. And if you have conversations with certain people, they're like, well, I would never use, an editor would say, I'd never use it for editorial, but you use it for composition, wouldn't you? You use it for music, wouldn't you? Well, yeah, sure. And that's how this manifests. Everyone's very precious about their core competency, but they really move fast when they need to get their job done. They'll move into other people's departments, no problem.
Well, I laugh because majority of my work is in the space of animation. So for me, these tools are helping to actually speed up the pipeline, speed up the process. And even if I'm just using it for storyboarding or previs and things like that. But I will tell you that the uncanny valley feeling, the shininess, the sort of non-organic feel to the illustrations doesn't sit well with me because I'm a
Sora
kid.
3.
I'm a kid from the 60s and 70s who grew up on 2D animation, and I love the look of 2D animation. I love that style. And what I see now is everyone is either trying to copy Pixar, which is great, and I'm a fan of that style as well. But it's almost like the difference between film and video. It's a little too clean right now. And even when you dirty it up,
this is the trap.
It still feels a little
I know
too
it's the
clean.
trap, and the trap is this. Just because you can make every shot look like a Michael Bay beauty shot, you're discovering it doesn't work if every single shot is a Michael Bay beauty shot. It just doesn't work, and that's okay. We'll tweak that. You know, we'll put some sort of, we'll fix that. There'll be something we'll tune. But right now, we're sort of fascinated with the bright and shininess of it all. But I guarantee you, someone's going to start, finding a way to throw a negative into, some mud and, dirty it up and distress the look. It'll be great.
All right, I'm gonna hold you to that.
Yeah, you should do it. You should go do your 2D animation.
All right, I'm on it.
You
I'm
could,
on it.
yeah.
I got nothing else to do this week. All right, so let's step back a little bit. We're going to get back to kind of talking a tool. We want to talk a little bit about the global film and television production space right now. And Vitrina has been doing a lot of research. You guys just released your latest bit of data, which is on the screen right now. Can you kind of walk us through where this is? And it's a great look for us to start to think about how we're going to predict what's going to happen, throughout 2026.
Yeah, I'll give a quick background to this chart. So this is actually the volume chart that you talked about. This is not value, it's not dollars, but it's the volume of activity. It's an area chart, so it's all stacked up against each other. So that the top, the overall area of the chart is actually the global production volume. So it's EMEA plus APAC plus Americas. So that it gives you then the overall global picture. I think the one very fascinating aspect of this chart, every time I look at it, there are just so many insights that typically come from it, right? Is the fact that it actually gives you two very different views. One is a sudden shock that the industry experiences. So COVID was one. The Netflix stock price drop in April 22 was another one, right? There was a sudden shock, right? And just when you suck out suddenly massive amounts of production financing from the system, the volume drops dramatically, and it just doesn't drop in one market. It actually takes the whole globe with it. Everybody catches the cold from the virus, right? So it's kind of like that. And then, so that's, the strikes were a sudden shock. It affected the US, UK, and a couple of other markets. But it took a few months for that to come back and work to be transported and transferred to other countries for companies that could do it, right? But then there is a long-term sort of decay that's happening, right? Or a long-term adjustment that's happening. It's the fall of linear. It's the lesser animations. Post-COVID, there was a surge in animations, and then there was a correction that happened in the market. Yeah. So you can actually see both of those, the sudden shocks and then a long-term adjustment that's happening. And one long-term adjustment that I wanted to talk about was that how some of the other countries have actually sort of adjusted to, coming back with a bang. And it has taken 3 or 4 key factors, right? It's the emergence of the film commissions locally, right? Tax incentives have actually adjusted, have been bettered. You've got film commissions that are super active, that are giving grants to very early stage projects in development stage, so that those projects then can be caught by studios and streamers and broadcasters when they are in the pre-production or production financing stage. That's one big shift. A third shift that's happened is cross-border co-productions. European countries are now collaborating a far more amount today than they were, let's say, 5 years ago, right? So a lot of those business adjustments have happened, and that's why for the first time, actually in the last 2 years, we've started seeing a phenomenon where EMEA markets now from a volume perspective beat the Americas. And that started to happen because the Europeans kind of got their act together. Germany, France have incredible amounts of incentives, and actually even the film commissions, the cash that they dole out to early stage projects is actually like really compelling. So does Canada, Australia, Qatar, Thailand. These countries have really got their act together for a lot of those corrections. So, markets have bounced back, but they've bounced back. One of the last point that I'll make is that in a lot of these countries, especially European ones, you've got broadcasters. Linear is back. The pubcasters are back, right? And so BBC's back, ZDF is back, ARD is back. All of these are largely European broadcasters. The way they've come back is that they've said, hey, you know what, our market may not be able to sort of pick up the full cost of this content. So let's actually sort of, go to neighboring markets, do co-pros, and essentially, bring down those costs. They've collaborated with, some have lined up with Netflix, and some have lined up with Prime Video, and they are taking those partnerships as well, where they're sharing some of the cost of production. And the last point that I'll make is that exactly to the $5 to $10 million point that James was making, a lot of these productions have actually corrected in terms of budgets. So, the supply chain has actually sort of adjusted. It's just not adjusted here in Hollywood fast enough. But everyone, it's finally all a function of financing. To Chuck's point about an 18% drop that he's seeing in the markets he's tracking from a volume perspective, but a 30% drop in value. It is finally a financing game, right? Productions. And some markets are just bouncing back faster.
And just to put a point on that, if you're getting a 40% tax break, especially for front of camera, right? So Tom Cruise his salary gets a tax break, like you do in the UK. Why would you think somebody would make that movie in Georgia where it's 25% and post isn't included and VFX is included and actors aren't included? And listen, our president's going to do what he does, and at the same time, there's no real way to tax production. No one's figured it out. He's certainly not going to put incentives in place, I don't believe, in my opinion. So this is not going away. The change in the business model problem, right? Like the fact that other places are getting more competitive. Everybody else needs to get competitive, or you end up losing your industry, and that is certainly what's happening with our local post community here. Is you can't get standalone post credits here. So we're seeing post companies in LA go bankrupt when in New York and London they can't find enough people or space.
Mm-hmm. You were going to say something, James?
Oh, there's so much to say there.
But
again, what's really interesting is that America is still going to make their stuff. Americans are going to make their stuff with or without the industrial mechanism that has come before. And this is because studios don't really make content. Humans make content. And it seems to be inherent in our species. It's something that we do. And so there is going to be a bottom line sort of momentum that powers through. And yes, I think all the studios are kind of floating above going, I can't make a pension off of that. It's going to be tough, but in the meantime, the storytellers are going to tell their stories. It's just the way it is. And it's up to everyone else to sort of figure out what that market looks like. The reason why these countries are doing so well, their costs are low. They're inherently low as a citizen of these other countries. And they're made low by certain other mechanisms. Healthcare. Healthcare and paying for a pension into a guild labor is something that's right to do. But when you put it on a line item, on a budget, it's very hard to compete.
Well, James, let's stay there for a minute because you're on the ground. You're involved in a lot of these productions. And you're seeing this rise in the U.S. of the independent studio.
Yeah.
So as you're seeing that take place, do you think that we're going to see enough of that type of movement to be able to compete on a volume level with Bollywood or Nollywood and the upcoming Olivewood, which is, the Dubai and Saudi Arabia? Those three are right now at the top when it comes to just pumping content out. So what do you think is going to happen?
So the problem is that when I hear you say that, I was talking with someone, a very accomplished director in Taiwan this morning, right? They have a labor problem, and that yes, they're making more content, but the culture of filmmaking is different there. Hollywood has something that everyone wants, which is the brand of Hollywood. And it's not just a brand of the stories we tell, it's how we work, right? We are definitely, so the opportunity is, when I hear you talking about the growth in other countries, I feel it, and I'm going to go help enable whoever needs enabling. I'm lucky enough right now that I get to work with who I want to work with, right? But I know that's not the case for everybody. But I can say that all of you, if you're on the production side, you can enable creative teams right now. They're desperate, looking for help. The other side is the content creation part. I'm working with people who have worked with Mr. Beast and below. Man, they're go, go, go. They only work with certain productions that are 5 million members, that sort of thing. It's a different economics, but it does exist, right? And getting introduced to those creative teams, now they work. They have an enormous learning curve because they've always been like a predator, a producer, editor, director who does everything themselves, and helping those people scale, right, and become grown-ups, in this field. It's something that's happening right now, right? And you can stick your head in there and say, what would be useful, and just dip in. So my point is, yes, the studios are going to have a rough time. And all larger institutions that are over 50 years old are going to have a rough time. But if you can actually engage with a creative team personally, you have a great time. Just great time. There's so much to do, and they'll pay you for it.
So you lead actually into our next question, and that was actually not planned, but you did a good job of kind of setting up this next question, which is from a studio transformation standpoint. The three of you, how do you see the studios surviving through this, and what do they need to do from a transformation standpoint to be relevant?
All right. Here we go. So Apple spends $2 billion on content. If you guys go look in their P&L, where does it sit? It sits under the $8 billion marketing budget. You can go look it up, all right? I would argue Apple is super comfortable spending $2 billion to sell you an iPad. I would argue Amazon is super comfortable spending the billions they spend to get you to sign up for Prime and buy dog food, all right? I think we're going to head to a world where the cost of creating content is going to keep getting smaller. So if you think about a mathematical asymptote, right? Like we ask this question all the time right now on the code writing side. What happens if the cost of writing code is almost zero? What happens if the cost of making content's almost zero? Right? I mean, you can visualize a world where Sora 3 gets so good. Maybe it's next week, maybe it's 6 months from now, maybe it's 6 years from now or 60 years from now, but at some point that's going to come. How does that change the business model of the industry we're in? If everybody can make content super cheap, does that mean you'll still pay the same amount to go to a movie theater? Maybe. You still pay the same amount for your Netflix subscription? Maybe. Will there be intense competition otherwise? Maybe. I will say the smart studios will figure it out, but there's one studio who's driving real cash flow right now, and they're dispassionate about what kind of content they put in front of you, right? There are other studios whose IP game is much more than content. It's parks and toys and other things. But clearly, everyone's going to try to figure out how to make money, and the question is, what's that going to be in the new world? But that's my crazy idea.
Okay. All right.
What would you say? I mean, YouTube basically allows you to put up a storefront now, and it's completely taken away the headache of creating your own CDN, which is not that hard to do, by the way. You can make your own CDN. Talk to that guy over there. But now, well, actually, there's a guy who just did this, right? A guy who produced a film in India.
That's right.
Yeah, tell them about this.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's a very interesting case study of this one of the top Bollywood actors called Amir Khan. His new movie comes out, Sitare Zameen Pe.
Big star,
Massive star, massive fan following. He put his movie in theaters, which now in India are largely cineplexes, multi-screen outlets. And then for the second window, everybody made a beeline to him. Right? Netflix usually buys a lot of movies in India. Prime Video does, and Disney Plus does as well. Refused to sell it to all three of them. Essentially put it on YouTube, TVOD, or pay-per-view at $1. So it's 100 rupees. It's $1 and some change. And he essentially put that out there. His thesis was that he was missing the single screen theater revenue that otherwise would have come, and a lot of those single screen theaters have just disappeared in India. They're either shopping malls or they've been converted into cineplexes. It's super expensive to now go to theaters with a family. and his thing was that, I want to sort of experiment. I don't need to sell it to Netflix. I won't sell it to Netflix. Well, very, very interesting experiment, exactly to the point of using YouTube as your own CDN, and then almost getting that privately screened to whoever pays a buck.
Yeah, but beyond just the paying the buck, talk about their monthly gross income from this experiment.
So, look, I mean, I think the results of his experiment are yet to come. But take another category, like take micro series and micro dramas, right? That category, I mean, a real short reportedly earned 40 million just in the month of July, with 1 minute or 1.5 minute long videos, right? Completely gamified, tokenized, and essentially they're run rating at a revenue of $500 million. How many of us have heard of Real Short, let's say 3 months ago or 4 months ago, till this whole micro series revolution has come in? So look, I mean, again, it's just fascinating to see a lot of these new models really bend the universe in a little bit in that fashion.
So now the question is, do the studios just become distribution houses? Are they going
Studios
to
should
move?
focus. I'm going to channel Michael Cioni.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm going to do it. Studios should do what they're really good at, right? And that is go get the eyeballs. That's what they should be focusing on. Really figuring out the eyeballs, because that's the trick, And they have so many options. They have so many tools, and they should be building AI tools to do this. Yeah. So I think that's that they should be providing those services, because not only will it enable all of the people who are looking to sell their negatives, it will inform their own industry internally as to what it is that they need to produce.
But they also raise money, right? Like
They also what?
raise money. The two functions the studio provides is financing and distribution. Right. So, and by the way, the amount of money across the 6 studios is 80% of the freaking value of the whole thing. So you need studios. You need studios to be successful.
Okay.
You need a healthy financial ecosystem.
I understand, but as the model we've all been going through is you can have some of the back end, but we really haven't hit profit yet, and so the DVD sales, there's
If
that
the cost of making stuff goes to zero, there's not much to share.
What I'm saying is that story first, and then reward the story maker and the filmmakers first, and that's what's happening is they're getting theirs right now, right? Because it's going to take a while for someone to say, a studio get involved and say, oh, well, you'll see your back end immediately. Like Netflix broke it when they came in. They said, you know what? We're going to give you what you would have made in DVD sales. We're going to give you that up front. How do you like us now? And they were like, oh. You mean right now? Yeah, that's it. We're not going to pay you residuals. We're going to give you all that DVD stuff. We'll calculate it. Here you go. And a lot of people took them up on it. And so when they inverted that, I think everyone got a taste for like, wow, I could be master of my own fate. And so yes, my only trepidation is that the amount of people involved in the middle, we're gonna have to slough that off before I think it even makes sense for people to engage without just in a negative pickup model.
So, as the only supply chain company on this panel, right, I had a slightly contrarian view, right? Which is, and something that I've not been able to reconcile with the studio question or the whole sort of shebang that you need to actually deliver that content or create that content, right? At the end of the day, right, inside a supply chain, there are only 2 things that matter: who created the content and who monetized it. And everything else is slush, right? Business models come and business models go, and that changes over a period of time. But the only thing that remains true, for years to come or decades to come is who created that content, who invented that idea, whose idea was it that made it. Did it take 100 companies to make it, or were there 5 guys in a garage? Right? Maybe it's one guy who's just putting a prompt now. I don't know. But who created the content and who monetized it? And then everything else is basically an enabler or a middleman. I don't know. That's a...
I agree. I will say that, like, figuring that piece out, I still think the studios, they're going to win, right? I don't
Eventually.
Like we're gonna have more young filmmakers that we've never met before emerge out of nowhere because of YouTube. There's a platform where they don't need to get signed. They don't have to come do the Hollywood circuit and do the couch casting or whatever other horrible shit used to happen. They can get found by creating something on a shoestring budget and rise. Now the question is 5 years from now, what does rise mean?
So here we are again. It's coming back around. What's happened before is happening again, right? So if we actually manifest a world where we're not just making, we're making 90 minutes of content. We're doing this in 12 different productions. We're slicing up to, a minute and a half each. And you'll see this with Taylor Sheridan, actually. He's not going that fast, but he's going pretty fast. He's beginning to create a stable, right? A stable of talent. A stable, not just crew, but actors. You'll start seeing actors popping up and all of this stuff, and they're starting to jump around. That's what's happening. If you're going to scale and go fast, you're going to create a stable of talent all across the board, including your actors. So I think that you're going to wind up in a world where, the way it used to be. I'm doing a 20-picture deal at Warner Brothers. I'm doing it, but it's not going to be, Warner Brothers is not going to be the name. It's going to be the sort of the Tyler Perry model, right? And they're going to be working so hard, they're going to create these little fiefdoms of talent. I think it's coming back around because we're going so fast, we have to have that talent close.
It's interesting because when you look at, Judd Apatow did the same thing. He did the same thing. Spike Lee did the same thing. They build these crews around him, and from there they have all this content coming up. It's a microcosm of the old studio system. So are we moving forward to move back? Or are we moving forward to move forward with all the tech that we have at our disposal today?
I think no matter what, because you have so many content creators, right, millions and millions now, there has to be an aggregation model for business at that scale to exist. Yep. Right? No matter how good the tech is, the teaching that those young filmmakers, they need to be with other people in the industry who are also at their level to teach them how to get better and better and better. Mm-hmm. That only happens in an aggregation play. There's no other way for it to happen, and hopefully business doesn't change that way.
We haven't talked about one thing.
What's that?
I don't know.
We got to get to the question first.
Okay. Well, brands.
Who had the question?
Question over there.
Okay. Oh no. I'm gonna do my Phil Donahue. Yeah. So, for those of you who know who Phil Donahue is, that's a deep cut for those of a certain age.
Fascinating sort of predictions, but I just wanted to maybe expand on where you were going with this. As you were painting the picture for studios, right? We're now seeing Allison buying Paramount and that, another TikTok and other channels. I think where studios are going, still 5 or 6, 7, whatever the case might be, it's the distribution platforms still within the same family makes up the whole studio, isn't it? Maybe and tomorrow it's going to be the Ray-Bans.
And you've seen Netflix do the same thing, right? Netflix has gotten into sports. They're going to get into game. They're going to do anything they can to drive eyeballs to their platform, and they're going to do an amazing job because they are all about the science and making that work, and they will.
Yeah, and I think in that spectrum of family of different distributions, probably basically there's still a premium, millions of dollars, just whatever the sort of theatrical and plus. But then you have this influencer, producing content cheaper, but it has its own platform and reaching the consumers. And maybe in between, these guys are sort of switching over to, right?
This is starting to happen now. You're going to start seeing influencers that probably should not be acting suddenly act, and we'll see how it goes. But it's going to start happening for sure. It's already started happening.
Yeah, maybe that wasn't a question, but I just liked where you guys were going with that. Yeah.
Awesome.
I got a crazy idea for you. Do influencers disappear? If you guys saw Sora, if today Sephora or MAC or some other makeup company employs an army of teenage girls to have 1,000 people follow them and put their makeup on, a year from now, are half of those influencers AI influencers? Would anyone notice? I'm sure they will notice in the beginning. Will they notice later? There is a weird world where you could see the content creators have their own lives upended because it's going to be a lot easier for the guy who's investing in makeup, the marketing person who's trying to push that makeup into the market. AI is going to look like a much easier, scalable way to control your output.
So that's a brand conversation, right? So that's, take a look at all of the brands that came before us that had a front lady or a front man or whatever, who didn't really exist but was manifested to sell a product. And that's kind of what you're talking about, right? Have you guys seen the Gucci thing that was just released? Holy cow, what a cast, what a beautiful example of what happens when a brand like Gucci says, hey, let's make a short. It's gorgeous. And I think, and it's also on YouTube, right? I think that is a reflection of something that like Red Bull did, right? So some of my customers are definitely like, yeah, this is all great, and I'm tired of asking a studio to put my product in their movie. What if I just create a world that people will occupy and be surrounded by?
It's a different way to think about where things are actually going. And once again, it is still a throwback.
Yeah.
Even in that model, it's a
coming
throwback
around.
because, you go back to like Maxwell's. I'm throwing out all these things that some of these young people are like.
Are you going to mention Magnavox now?
They're gonna be like,
cereal,
what in the world
right?
is he talking about? But I mean, seriously, this really is exactly. That's kind of where we're going. So,
That guy.
Hand up.
hold on, we're gonna get a mic over to you because we want to get your question
What
recorded
time's
as
the bar
well.
close?
So my question, I just wanted to drill into this question of, in the past, we like when YouTube first came along, the whole concept was, hey, there's going to be 400 million different voices, and it's the great democratizer, and there's not going to be any more stars. And what resulted from YouTube was influencers came to exist. Is it possible that in fact there will always be stars? That we're going to keep, there's always a funnel, and the funnel always creates influencers somehow or another.
Is Superman a star?
That's a really good question. I don't know, what is Superman?
A brand.
Is Superman a brand? Is it a person?
Superman's
is it
a
a comic
brand.
book? Okay.
So, I mean, but it's not a particular human. It's many people who played Superman. Many people play Spider-Man, right? Is there a world where, I don't remember Max Headroom? I'm dating myself, obviously. And he did one of the MTV Music Awards. I don't know if you guys remember that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, as ridiculous as the Tilly Norwood thing was, it's only ridiculous right now because it's not common. It's like, and I realize I'm way in the controversial territory now, but this debate about AI music, right? I would argue, I listen to a lot of like just instrumental stuff. I would challenge anyone in this room to be able to tell me which ones are made by humans, which aren't. And frankly, it's like the food you eat. I'm sure there was a moment.
I will take that challenge, Chuck.
Yeah.
I will take that challenge on.
Right.
As a musician, I will take that challenge
So what
on.
you're seeing here is the beginning of the certified human label, right? And that's what's going to wind up happening is that there are going to be all sorts of aficionados and experts saying like, well, actually, I heard he uses blah 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 to make his all the music. It's going to be certified human, and it's going to have cachet. It's like yeah. You all can do this, but hold my beer. And then the real aficionados will always be differentiated. Now we'll be able to tell our stories, even though we can't be half as good as that other person. But I'll be able to tell my story, and I'll be able to do it because suddenly I don't need 500 people to do it. I just need 5, and maybe I can get away with 3. But I can tell my story. So there's going to be gatekeeping. There's going to be cream of the crop discussions, but you are going to see this groundswell of a compost heap of just fertile ground of human storytelling across the globe, which aggregation is going to be a real big problem.
I'm not going to disagree with you on that. I do believe that we are going to see this, and like all of us have said, storytellers and individuals who understand their craft, they're going to rise because for them, the technology only helps them to be able to tell a better story. CGI. When CGI came out, everyone was panicking like, hey, wait, that's not real. We don't want to see this in our movie. We want to see real people doing things.
We want to see hand-drawn images.
Exactly, you know, but what we got back to was, hey, wait, this is actually enhancing the experience and helping us to actually suspend our disbelief. So, you know, when you think about that Terminator scene where, you know, Robert is running towards the car and he grabs onto it with the little hook hand and the whole thing kind of changed. That was one of those moments where everyone was like, oh, wow, okay, CG isn't a bad thing. It's actually, you know, this is really useful. What do we see? And we're going to go to our last question here.
Oh, I got a quick question.
Oh, we got a question over here.
Oh, no
Don't
give them
questions
mic.
from
All
Matt.
right, next.
I'm only giving you one.
No
so it's
questions
easy.
from Matt.
How do you feel about C2PA interacting with the idea of labeling and being able to be that transparent of, is it real, is it generated?
TPPA?
C2PA.
C2PA. Oh, C2PA.
C2PA. Yes.
Jesus, man.
C2PA.
It'll be really important.
Yeah.
Critical.
I mean, I agree. My personal feeling about
And so will
that is that-
provenance.
yeah. Provenance is going
I
to be
can't wait
huge.
for everyone to sue the crap out of each other, so at least I can know what not to do, you know, because it really is. Do you know who's not waiting, right, for C2PA, by the way? Asia.
Yes.
But Matt, ask
They are
yourself,
not waiting. Japan is not waiting.
ask yourself why. It's not because of the actors. It's because of the IP.
Yes.
You want to make sure you can monetize the IP in perpetuity, and no one's going to sue the holy cow out of you, right? So
Yeah.
it's not about the actors. As much as we'd all like to be good humans and say it is, it's about the money.
It's not always about the money. Megalopolis.
Wow.
Show of hands, anyone saw Megalopolis? Nobody?
That's almost like you want to just end on that one, you know? Wow. I can't
Not about the money.
I cannot believe he went there. And by the way, this guy worked on Waterworld.
And
Okay.
Megalopolis.
Yes. It's not about the money.
Not my fault.
All right. So we're gonna ask the final question here. Okay.
I think you got the 5-minute warning.
5-minute warning. So this is the final question. And this is all for all three of you. If you had to prioritize just one major shift to ensure that studios can stay relevant over the next 5 years. Studios. Okay. Whether it's an independent studio or you know, one of the 5 families. All right. What would that one major shift be? I finally stumped him.
I
I
remember
finally
this in
got
our
him to
prep
stop
notes.
talking.
This is,
Yeah,
I remember this in our
I
prep
think I
notes.
finally did it.
I'll go first actually. Just I think the financial models are changing, the business models are changing, and any studio that kind of gets the drift, sort of reads the tea leaves in their cups, I think those studios will survive. And you know, the agility and the nimbleness of a switch as the business models change rapidly.
I just to riff on that, I think it's going to be around the IP. It is going to be provenance and C2, whatever the hell that thing's called. It's going to be
C2PA.
C2PA. It's going to be the ability for a studio to leverage the cost savings in front of us, which might be a thing. And if they can leverage that and actually monetize that IP in all the different ways, it's going to have to change. They're going to have to change their business models too. But if you can't solve that single problem, then you can't participate in the opportunity of the cost reduction, which hopefully for all of us in the room ends up with a volume increase, right? That's how I would think about it. You're going to get a much bigger volume pop out of smaller movies, right, or smaller projects. But if they can figure that piece out, then they'll make money in the next 20 years. If those who can't figure that out, obviously won't be around. Because they won't be able to suffer that as that cost of making content drops, business models will change rapidly.
I assume you're saying by studio, multi-billion market cap.
Yes.
Okay. Because there are a lot of other places now, new studios, micro
Yeah.
studios,
Yep.
that are going to be doing the heavy lifting right now, riding the momentum of the innate need to create story. So my advice to the studios would be patient. you're going to have to wait a little bit, because if you go striding, you can't buy this. You can't buy this. You're going to have to watch carefully, and you're going to have to partner very carefully and very lightly. You know, like remember when Dave Matthews won his Grammy?
Yeah.
You know, that producing record label? They didn't touch him, man. They just let him do his thing, right? There's going to be a lot of that. So be patient, and I'm telling you, these costs are so low. Just enable, but don't give notes. Just let them do it, you know? Soft touch. Soft touch. Patience.
I feel like James has some PTSD from studios.
We'll get back to you. We'll get back to you.
All right. Well, thank you all so much for spending your afternoon with us. And we are standing between you and the bungalow. So have a wonderful rest of your evening. See you all tomorrow and the day after for more exciting sessions.
And where are the
thank you
drinks?
all for your questions and your engagement.